getting the data, right? So you said, okay, let's say I want to offer educational tours. Okay, how do I know which people are likely to take advantage? Should I go to JKIA and wait for tourists? Should I go to schools and ask them if they have to do tours? Should I work with a tours and travel company? Questions like that. And then I want to have animation content. Where do I get who are my target customers? Am I targeting toddlers who watch YouTube? Am I targeting educational institutions that might want education, like animated versions of their educational content? If I'm targeting the government, for instance, with utility service management, how do I know whether I'm going to go to the county government of Nairobi or how do I go to Kiambu, you know? And so the first thing you basically need to do is you have to get the data. And when you're getting the data is basically whether or not you think you know your target market. And I say that because sometimes you think you know your target market, but you don't really know them. You have to go in with a very open mind. And so you want to get data. How are the different ways of getting data? So the one option is to do interviews or surveys. So for example, if I have the tour company, I'm thinking maybe I should go to schools. I go to my local primary school and ask them, how do you guys organize your tours? It could be that maybe I am targeting tourists. I could go to the Kenya Tourism Board and ask them where are the places where I could find the stakeholders who are interested in tourism, or even just go to a local hotel or go to JKIA, security allowing, if you could just like see how people are coming in and managing tours. So interviews is basically, you want to interview people who've been in the business and also people who have been the customers themselves who want something. The reason why I say people who've been in the business is because they probably made some mistakes that you are also likely to make. So ask someone who is in the business or tried to start that business before. Ask them about, what did you find about this market? Who likes this kind of thing, stuff like that. You can also do a survey. A survey is still the same as an interview, only that you are doing it online. So nowadays there are free platforms where you could run a survey. For instance, you can do for SurveyMonkey. You can also use Google Forms. The thing about surveys is also, especially since a lot of people are on their phone nowadays, it collects the data, does the aggregation for you, and it basically allows you to share it to a much wider group of people. But the essence is you're asking people for information about what do you like about the product. Another thing you can use is website landing pages or social media pages. So a website landing page is just literally a one page of your website. It doesn't have about us or what we do and stuff like that. It's just a placeholder for when your website is ready. And our website landing page will give you an indication based on the number of people coming to your website. So for example, let's say I am looking at the business of, the one who does the online freelancing platform for local and international clients. So that would be a good idea for a website landing page because you're targeting people who are also outside the country. And so when you have a website landing page, and you might probably want to boost it with some digital ads, which we'll talk about later, then you're able to see which kind of people are coming to your website. Are they people from Nairobi? Are they people from New York? Are they people from Brazil? You know, and so then it allows you to know that if I am getting much more interest for a specific area than where I am, then you know that I might have more likelihood of having customers there than having than where I am. Another one you could do is social media pages. This one you could do with real stock, or you could use stock photos. So for instance, if you want to you're basically creating the platform that is allowing people to learn new skills and, you know, like just learn something new so that you can be able to improve your employability and marketability. You can just create a social media page and say online classes for, you know, how to ask for a pay or how to do XYZ in such a career environment, and see how many people are engaging. So then you go to those people's profiles and see who is this kind of person. Are they mid-professional? Are they in an office setting? are they at the end of their career? So social media can allow you to see who is liking your page, also allows you to see the traffic, because it will be able to give you breakdown of men, women, where they're coming from. And so all of these are just places that give you an indication of who are the people interested. A key thing to mention on websites and social media is you have to tell people about it or boost it. So don't just put it and then go away. Go to the people who you think are your customers and say, hey, look at this link, let me know what you think. And then try to market it as much as possible. Another way you can get data is pre-sales. Pre-sales essentially says, for example, I am selling a product. In this case, I'll say running shoes. I don't have money for them, but here is a sample. If you want to get these shoes maybe in 10 months or 5 months from now, you can buy them now, and then I can deliver them to you. But of course, you're showing people the sample. The beauty of pre-sales is that it is a market, it's a direct market validation. Not only are people seeing your products, but they are also buying them in advance, which is good for you because it gives you it gives you some money to start with, but it also gives you validation that people are willing to pay for your product. So a pre-sale is essentially, you don't have all the product at hand, you only have a few samples, and you're saying, if you buy it from me, I will give it to you at a certain point in time, but buy now before they run out of stock. And then lastly, sampling exercises. This is very common in the supermarkets when they're like, oh, come try this biscuit or come try this hand lotion. You always see the girls on the aisles. So what they're doing is they're also, sometimes they're selling the product to you to get you used to it, but other times it's also a sampling exercise to see who is the kind of person that is going to be attracted to this particular product. So I just wanted to give you ideas on ways in which you could get data, because sometimes it's easy to go and say, okay, I want to find out more about my customer, but how do I go about it? So these are suggestions. But this is not necessarily the alpha and the omega. You know, there are different ways in which people could get data. And other than the ones I have mentioned, I want you to please share in the chat any suggestions for getting data that I may not have mentioned, or I may have mentioned as well, but you have a different opinion of it. So just go to the chat and let me know in relation to your business how you think you could collect data. And I just have to make again, whether or not you think you know your target market. Sometimes it's easy to go into and say, I think I know my customer. No, just assume even that customer that you think you know, what are ways in which you could find out whether or not they like your product, so they want you to improve your product in a certain way. So yeah. I'll give you a minute and jump into the chat box to see if you have any suggestions for collecting data about your target audience. Just type it in directly in the chat. Yeah, that's actually a good idea, like feedback after use, which is essentially go try it and then let me know how you feel about it. That's a good idea. Thank you, Caroline. Customer feedback, online reviews, word of mouth. That's actually a very good one, because one of the things that people forget is we always look for customer feedback at the beginning. And once we are happy with our product, we forget about the customers. So customer feedback should be at the point of making it, perfecting it. When you put it in the market, it's always, please give us your feedback about the product. So don't just sell and forget. Product development is always a work in progress. So customer feedback is very good, online reviews as well, and word of mouth. Yeah, exactly. So those are great examples of other ways in which you could collect data. But now at least you know, okay, these are different ways in which we could collect the data. When it came to us, for instance, this is how we did it. First of all, we did surveys. We actually went to where the athletes were. Sometimes some of this work may seem very uninteresting, but I just wanted to show you the practicality of you literally just pack your bags, go where your customers are, and ask them questions. What do you want in a good running shoe? If it was light, how light do you want it? If it was heavy, how heavy do you want it? Is there a dream shoe you've always wanted that you never had? So we did surveys. The other thing we did is pre-sales. Pre-sales, essentially, we launched a campaign where we said, buy the product in advance, and then we only had 3 samples then, I believe, but we used those samples to say, if you pre-buy the product at this particular point, you'll get a discount and you'll get it at this particular point in time. So that was good. It allowed us to raise money, but at the same time, it also gave us market validation that people really liked this product. We also had a landing page. The first time we did the image at the bottom, that was all that was our website. It was just endasportswear.com, running shoes made in Kenya. That's it. But then we were trying to boost it and see how many people would come and where these people were coming from. And the landing page gave us a very good idea on when we were making the pre-sales, we knew exactly which market to target. So I have to say, and that's very important. Yes, online surveys, yes, that's true, and also scientific research. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like just sitting down and doing the desk research is also, they're both are good ways. So this is how we did for Enda. And so I think one of the things also is, okay, it might be easy to say, okay, go and collect all this stuff. But I think I want to also understand the practical challenges you think you will face for your business in collecting customer data, because by understanding your challenges, then you will be in a good position to know how to deal with it. And so I would like to know, what challenges are you likely to face when you're collecting your customer data? Or if you have already done this process, what challenges did you face when you're collecting your customer data? Because these are now the real things that make the business grow or not. And sometimes we don't appreciate just how important those small details are. So please share in the chat for, I think I'll give us like perhaps half a minute. Share in the chat what you think are the challenges you're likely to face when you're collecting customer data. Good. Getting the best survey questions. That's actually a very good point, because if you are not asking the right questions, you will not get the right answers. One of the tricks I've learned when you're doing survey questions is to have open-ended questions. Don't say, do you like fish or sausage? Ask them, what kind of meat do you like? You know, let them say the question. So the way you set your questions, try to give them open. And yeah, and also try to have someone who probably has run a business before, or just try to think what you need. But the questions you ask will determine the answers you get. So that's an important challenge. And willingness of potential customers to give information. That is true. Sometimes they might be, people are quite evasive nowadays. And so they might be like, why are you asking me all these questions? And interested parties, that is true, but do not give up. At the end of the day, you want your business to continue. Yeah, okay, great. So those are some of the challenges, but I think one of the things you have to remember is that your business is you are the driver, basically. Whether the bus arrives at the destination is up to you. And so sometimes you may face all these challenges, but ultimately it's very important that you stick to the course, and it's important that you push on even when you're facing these challenges. Okay, so now that we understand how to get the information and some of the problems we might and how we might encounter and how we can overcome them, the next thing we are going to now do is get into the customer persona itself. What do we mean when we are talking about demographics, right? Demographics are these specific issues. How old is your customer? What's the age range? What's their educational background? Are they university? Are they undergraduate? You know, what's their gender? Where do they live? How many times do they do a specific activity? What language do they speak? How much income do they make? So here I gave you an example of a demographic for Enda. Our customer age base is 27 to 45 years old. They are mostly university educated, both men and women. They live in major cities around the world. They run 3 to 5 times a week, mostly on tarmac. So I know that they're buying a lot of running shoes. Their primary language is English. So I need to have a customer service rep that talks good English. And their income is about $75,000 to $250,000. So they can definitely afford my product. So this is important because it helps me understand that Oh yeah, great. Someone said you can also use pen and paper. Sometimes we forget the power of pen and paper. And as I showed in my Enda, in the thing, the survey, we did use pen and paper. So you could actually do that. Thank you very much thank you very much for that, Vicky or Freya. Yeah, and so then the next thing you need to get when you are doing the target is the background knowledge, right? What knowledge of your product does this customer have? In our case, we have people who they have moderate to deep knowledge about running shoes. So when they ask you about running shoes, they will say, is it a heel, what's the heel to toe drop? You know, not everybody will ask you that question because some people don't even know what a heel to toe drop is, but a runner knows that question. And so most of the background knowledge for my customers, they have moderate or deep knowledge. The others, they are either starting to run, they don't have this knowledge, but they have running friends who they refer to this question. And so their friends would be the ones in the first group where they have maybe someone who is running 10, 15 kilometers and they'll be like, hey, what running shoes should I wear? This is important because when it comes to marketing, I know that marketing to my client is as important as marketing to the one that the client thinks is a professional runner, because that's the person that the client who hasn't started running is going to refer to. And then lastly, what are their motivations? What are the things that motivate my customers? Based on Enda research, I know that my customers, based on their age group, as I say, 27 to 45, they're people who are in their mid-careers or they're basically at the peak of their career. So they really work a lot and they think about where I want to be in the next X number of years. They care about sustainability. They know that climate change is real. They know that we have to take care of the environment. They are also family oriented. At that age group, people are either settling down or getting married or thinking about having a family. They also care about social justice, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's about climate change and the use of single-use plastic. I know these are the things my clients care about. And this is important because in my messaging to my clients and in how I run my business, I have to make sure I am targeting their motivations. I have to keep in mind their background knowledge, and I have to know more about their demographics. So the other thing then you have to look at is their behavioral patterns. Like you have to be obsessed with your customer. What do they do? Like when they wake up to when they sleep, what are their behavioral patterns? So in our case, we have people who they like outdoor weekends. So you'll not find them on the couch. My customers are more likely to be running in Karura than they would be, let's say, in a mall. They socialize and drink, mostly with their friends, family, or running groups. They carry packed lunch or order from a specific trusted place because they're health conscious. So they're not going to be ordering pizzas and burgers and stuff like that. They would rather cook for themselves or go to a place where they know this place, we can trust the quality of the ingredients they use. They're introverted, so a lot of runners are not people who will be very loud. So I would find them in small, intimate places. And either it's a person who has kids or is thinking about having kids. So again, as we'll kind of come to talk about marketing, this is important. So for instance, I know that I'd rather go and set up a pop-up at Karura than I would at Arboretum, right? I know that if I create a watch party usually when we are watching a marathon and I put it in a bar, and where the runners will come from, they will come because they enjoy socializing and drinking. And so when I do things like this, and also just a last example, they carry packed lunch or order from a specific trusted place. When I am doing a collaboration on emails, for example, I will do it with someone who is selling organic food or someone who is careful about what they prepare. So that way I know it's something that will catch the attention of my readers. So these behavioral patterns are important to help you in your marketing and branding decisions. Needs and pain points. What are the things that your customer needs and what are the things that are really, like if you as a business could solve their pain point, you would do really well. One thing is in our analysis for our customers, we know that people want consistency of running products. So every runner we talked to was saying, oh my gosh, I really like running shoes, but then this company after 3 years will like make that shoe disappear and launch another new shoe. So the runner has gotten used to a specific type of shoe, and then the running companies withdraw that shoe from the market. So this is very annoying to runners because any small thing could lead to an injury. I also know that my runner wants comfort. In as much as they want to look good, I know that they care about being comfortable. So this is very important because some of the shoes I would look at, someone would say, oh my gosh, those shoes are ugly. But I know that my customer is looking more at comfort than trend. And therefore, they might be ugly to you, but to the customer, it fits the need. And so that's very important for us to understand comfort. Customers for us, again, they have community, they care about community give back. They want their money to go to SMEs rather than big business. And so they will be out there looking for small running shoes companies to support, or African women companies to support. You know, they're basically saying, I want my money to mean something. They care about sustainability and they care about value for money. And so even how we have positioned our brand, for example, we are climate neutral certified, which means we account for our carbon footprint. We are also a B Corp certified company. B Corps are essentially companies that have been verified to meet the highest standards of social, economic, and community impact. So it's not just about the business. The reasons why we go for these certifications is because we understand how much that validation means for our customer. Our customer wants to support a small business, a sustainable business, and they want to feel value for money. And so the reason why someone else might be like, but why would you want to do that? We know that our customer would value it, and therefore we do that not just for them, but also for us, because that's what we believe as a business. And so here is an example of an Enda customer. So this is what you want at the end of your customer persona exercise. You want an actual person who you can point to and say, this person is my customer, right? You want to say, so for instance, whenever I talk about female runner profiles for Enda, I would pick someone like Erica. She is an actual person that exists. She has a job in management. She works in a bank. Her income range is about $150,000. She's 34, she's single. She lives in New York City, USA. So basically she's running in a city. Her behavior is she's an adventurer. So Erica is an extrovert. Is not the same as our other customers who are introverts, but it doesn't have to be exact, you know, but she's sporty, she's curious. Curious is good because I know if I put in front of her Kenyan made running shoes, she'll be like, that sounds interesting, you know? And so I respond to that behavior. Her needs, she wants a shoe that is comfortable, is sustainable, it has an element of social justice, and it's also about consistency. And here I'm rating what is important for her. Consistency is extremely important, followed by comfort, followed by sustainability, and if you could add social justice, it'll be a good thing for her. And so at the end of the process, you want to have a customer profile where you're not guessing. You are saying, Navalayo Osembo is my customer, or John Mwangi is my customer, or, you know, Catherine is my customer. That's exactly what you want. So I wanted to basically ask you to use the template that was provided to you to create one or multiple personas for your business. So I know it takes time. So in this case, I just want you to jog your mind and also to be able to make sure that you are on the right track so that when you're by yourself, you're able to create the template properly. And so I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes, let's say 3 minutes, yeah. I'll give you 3 minutes. Basically use the template provided and create a customer profile just at the top of your head, right? Who do you think is that customer profile? And then we can have 1 or 2 people share it, not on the chat, but it would be nice to, once you've indicated and you're willing to, we could have a discussion about it. And say take advantage, don't be shy, because at the end of the day, you're the driver of your business. So make sure you're making any mistakes and we're working together and we're correcting it together. So yes. Yeah, just highlighting the words on the chat, like you won't be able to make to all work on the same document, so make a copy and then work on it. In that case, I think I'll give you 5 minutes then. Let's add that minute. So make a copy and do that. I think it would be a good thing which you can always continue working on even after this. So use the template, 5 minutes, create one or more multiple personas, and then we can be able to fine tune and see if you're on the right track. If you're done, you can just indicate in the chat done, so that if 5 minutes is too long, if we have a quorum, we could just continue. Okay, so Esther, basically you're asking about your project is about mentorship. How do you go about it? I would say, who are you going to mentor, And so that would be your target, the customer persona we are trying to create, because that person is the person you have to convince that they need mentorship. So it could be the direct recipient, or it could be the person who is in charge of the direct recipient. So in this case, maybe you might, if it's underage people, you might be targeting their parents or their schools. If it is overage people, it could be you're basically targeting young professionals. So I would say to go about it, think about who is the person to whom you will be taking the business. That is the person to whom the customer persona we will refer to. And I think once we finish each session, I'll answer the questions that are in the Q&A session. So don't worry, I've seen them. And as a reminder, we have 2 minutes. All right. So I think in the interest of time, I'll just ask, is there anybody who wants to share? And again, I'd just emphasize that we're not looking for perfection. We're looking at making it work. So is there anybody who'd like to share? Oh, no, I see Ben was asking for the link to the template, but I think the Whitebox team will respond to that. Yeah, is there anybody who'd like to share theirs? Okay, awesome, cool. We have, yes, it's very possible to have multiple personas. So I gave you an example of Erica. I have 6 personas for my business. And so I try to market to them at different times. So you don't have to have one. This is just for purposes. Yes, I would, yes. Timothy, would you like to share? Do you want to speak or share? I think it would be nice to speak. Awesome, great. Please go ahead.
So hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm Timothy. My business is the online freelancing platform where my target audience is global. So I don't know how I can share my screen. Let me just read. Let me just read what I've put down. So I've not put down much, but I've filled in the demographics part, where my target audience is people aged from 23 to 50, because I'm basically targeting startups, people who have startups, but they need some skills for their business, be it digital marketers, be it accountants, and they need to hire these people. So yeah, these are startups, and I'm thinking people who have startups are people who ranging from the age of 23 to say around 50. Their educational background, I'm thinking graduates, gender, both male and female. Primary language, I'm working with English for starters. Maybe later I might expand to people from other native languages. Country and city of residence, global. Income, I'm not very sure. So background knowledge, these are people who have startup businesses and need services from different experts or professionals to help them as they start off their capital. And something else about my target audience is that they have minimal capital and hence their need to outsource to freelancers. So for motivations, I did not fill in because I think that's also a question I wanted to ask. If my target audience is so wide, motivations, I'm not sure, because I think for my target audience, I have all kinds of people. Yeah, so that's all from me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think the one thing I would just pop is, and you mentioned it again under motivation, you said your customer profile is global, and you also said your motivation is a very, it's diverse because there's so many people. So I still think that there's work to do, because even in this whole wide world, it's not everybody. And as much as you've said the age group, I still think there's an ability to drill down. It could be, for instance, for us, we have people who run far, like people are running all over the world, but we know specifically the people living in cities are making more money and they're sitting in offices more, and therefore they run more because of that inactivity. And so maybe we could work on this during the office hours. We still have some room to grow in terms of saying, global is good, but not good enough. Even in a global world, you need to still know who you're targeting. So for instance, if you're setting up ads, you need to have demographics. You need to know, are they single women? Are they men? Are they, because if I am targeting, let's say, freelancing services, I am in that age group, I have a startup, but I am more likely to be an extrovert or an introvert. And so you might find me probably playing video games in my time, because I don't have time to go outside and socialize. Therefore, it might be easier for you to advertise for me on Twitch or something similar, as opposed to going on Instagram or YouTube. So there's still work to be done, but I'm glad we've started this process. And one of the things you also said that was a catch for me, you said, I think. And I think for me, that's the thing where I'm like, you should be very certain of who your customer is. And so if you still think you know your customer, then you still have to go back to the data collection phase until I say, I know. The whole idea of a customer persona is you have to point to someone and I say, Timothy is my customer. And so when I say global is my customer, that just shows you that we still have some work to do to say, okay, who in the world, in as much as you're an online business, there are certain people who are more likely to respond better to your business. So we'll work on that, but that's a very, very good start. Great. So now you've basically understood what it means to develop a customer persona. The next thing you need to do is to figure out narrow down your target market. So for example, if you're selling fish, you might not want to sell it in a fishing village. Maybe you want to sell it in a place where fish is not able to get. So once you know where your customer is, and again, as I said to Timothy, we have to kind of go down and work on what global means, because now you have to go down and really go and find where is the best place to start your business. Which region is your customer? Which country? Which town? Most importantly, especially if you're in a business that is not online, I mean a business that's not a service, how are you able to fulfill your customers' expectations? So for instance, I make running shoes. I'm selling them to a customer in Spain. I need to know my ability to get that shoe from Kenya to Spain, and also supply chain and logistics. If I am selling to a customer in Spain and I'm getting parts from China, then I need to figure out, is this something that is practical or it's not something that's practical? And so, okay, cool. I think for the person who's raised the hand, we'll kind of keep it towards the end. Yeah, and then if we have time, we'll kind of go back to it, but thank you for that. And so the target market is now that you know who your customer is. So for example, if I go back to mine, I said I know Erica is living in New York. I know that I need to figure out how to fulfill her needs. If not, then I have to go back and say, okay, my business is going to be really difficult to survive if I am not able to get Erica her pair of shoes. And so the thing now, when you have identified your customer, know where they live. A good thing is a number of you have online businesses, so it doesn't really matter where someone is staying. You can still be able to fulfill their expectations online. If you are a product business, you have to be very specific in terms of how you're going to supply them with what they have. And then once you're able to do that, you have an honest conversation with yourself. Am I in a position financially to deliver to them? Am I in a position from a supplier perspective to deliver to them? If that's not all coming together, then you have to go back to the drawing board until everything comes together. So if I give an example of the Enda target market, when we're going deeper, I know that the region where most of my customers are is North America and Europe, right? The countries are Kenya, US, and Netherlands, and the towns are San Francisco, New York, LA, Nairobi, and a city called Utrecht in the Netherlands. And so this is where I put all my effort. Am I able to fulfill my customers' obligations? Yes, I made sure I have an online platform to reach customers in these far locations. And I decided to create a place inside their countries where I ship my products to. And from that location, their products are able to be delivered to them. And then I can say, okay, I think this business can work, because we're not going to be fighting about delays of import and custom duty. And then supply chain and logistics, I looked at those markets and I said, okay, what time does it take for me to get stuff from China, bring it to Kenya, make it, and then ship it to all these places? Is that possible or not? Once I am able to say yes, yes, yes to a majority of this, then you know that your business is in a good position to go in and meet the needs of Erica or Timothy or Catherine. You have to be very specific in terms of, always keep in mind the customer persona. Now, the next thing we want to discuss is how to make a budget, a marketing budget, because I feel like sometimes, and we also fall into that trap, you have so many ideas of things you want to do, and then you forget that the money is not, the money, let's say, vitu kwa ground is different. Like, you have to make sure that the money is in tandem with what you can achieve. So in terms of prioritizing what's important and what is possible, and I put possibility there because sometimes we want to do stuff and we forget the possibility aspect, it's important to be realistic about how much money you have and what you can do. So this is literally what we do, and at the end, like usually we do this at the beginning of the year. We make a list of all the possible marketing activities that we can do. And we do this with the whole team. We sit and we say, okay, this year, what can we do? We say, oh, we want to partner with Jay-Z, or we want to partner, you know, we say all these crazy things. And then once we've made a list, which is usually very long, like this year, it was about 4 pages of bullet points of things we want to do. We come back to our budget realities and we're like, okay, can you guys really afford Jay-Z's budget? We can't. Okay, maybe it might be worth talking to, I don't know, Collins Injera or someone more local that we can basically get to that point. And then now you select activities that are within your budget and yield you maximum exposure. So you go and say, okay, which activities can we do that we can afford? Because you don't want to get into debt for marketing, because marketing is not necessarily a guarantee that you will get back what you put in. And then you also want the activities that will give you best exposure. Sometimes you, and then you have to define the performance metrics. One of the mistakes we do when we are doing marketing, you think that marketing equals to sales. Sometimes marketing is equals to awareness, which means that yes, you'll market to me and you'll spend money. I won't buy your product now, but I'll be like, oh, so now I can take a tour with so-and-so's company, or now I can upskill my skill with this company, or I can watch animation on this platform. So you have to define a performance metric so that you're not disappointed. And then last but not least, you have to measure and share with your team and adapt accordingly. So this just means that you have to say, okay, we said we are going to do Instagram posts. We're not looking for likes. Our measurement is sales. Are we getting sales? Yes or no? If you're not getting sales and you're paying an influencer, then you have to look back and say, hey, I don't think this thing is working for a business because this influencer is making money, but me, I'm not making money. But again, remember, if you are targeting sales, it's very different than if you are targeting awareness. So defining the metrics is important so that you know whether or not you are achieving your goal. So here are the marketing priorities for us. Just to give you an example, our email list is very important. Someone had asked a question earlier on when should I set up a website? I would say yesterday. The reason why this is important is an email list is one of the best ways to sell without making a lot of effort. Email list is basically just asking people to subscribe, and you basically issue out a newsletter once, twice, or even a month. Monthly is okay. For us, we issue weekly. What we found out is that when we give exclusive offers on our email list, people buy more on our email list than they do on any other platform. And so we basically said, okay, we have to make an email list for us. The email list contains a number of addresses from people around the world who want to hear about Kenyan running news, but at the same time, we use it as a tool for selling. So that's our biggest priority. Social media is also a big priority. A blog is great for us as well. Pay-per-click ads, we call them PPC ads, and affiliate marketing. So those are the key things we want to do. And so that we do them by looking at different activities. And activities are important because then when we get to the budget, you'll see how it's important. So for the email list, for example, we share Kenyan running shoes for social running news. Nobody does that currently, so it's a good source for people who are collecting information about the running space in Kenya and Africa. Social media campaigns, we think about big campaigns we want to do. I'll go over these campaigns later, so don't worry about the points. I was just putting them to give you a heads up. A blog is evergreen content, and something called search engine optimization. You need to have a blog for your business. And sometimes we get too complicated thinking, I don't know what to write about a blog. A blog can be 200 words and a few pictures. And nowadays we have stock photos. Just write, because especially in Kenya, a lot of people don't have blogs for their businesses. And when I'm searching, for example, online learning platform in Kenya, while I may not go to your website, the search engine might pick your blog because you're the only one writing about that opportunity or that space. And an example for Enda, we write about what do you eat as a runner? What do you look for in a running shoe? Like stuff that your customer will find interesting. If you're in animation, maybe someone wants to learn the best places to learn animation, or how to make an animation move from this file to that file, or something like that. So you're basically sharing a little bit of your knowledge, but it's also doing what the internet is very good at, collecting little bits of information. And then when someone is searching for that, even though you have not paid for the ad, your blog pops up. So blogging is actually a very, very good way, especially for Kenya, because we have not, businesses have not embraced it. So for those who have, they are more likely to be found than those who haven't. And then ads, these are just basically Facebook ads, and affiliate marketing is basically people selling on your behalf and making a commission. So now that we know these activities, the thing I want to show you now is how does a marketing budget look like, right? So I've just switched the screen to show you a sample marketing budget of how we will go. So the first thing we say, we want to achieve X sales for 2021. That's very important because you're defining the metric. Don't just say we want to market our product. Your marketing should yield at least X number of sales. So in this case, if we are saying we're spending 1 million, usually I do ×3, and I'd be like, I want to make, I want at least, and there's no ×3, this is just my own personal thing, because I think you want to cover for your operational expenses and marketing expenses, and then you have the profit. But there are different ways to do that. So you want to achieve X amount of sales for 2021. Your authorized spend is 1 million. This is important for you to share with the team. Otherwise, people are just going to go and spend money, and then you're like, this is not what we agreed to do. You cannot see the screen. I am on it right now. Let me stop sharing and share it again. See if you can see it. Can you see it now? Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Just to go over it, here's the objective. Let me just expand that a little bit. The objective is to make X number of sales for the month. Very important, so that you're able to know whether or not you're achieving success. Authorized spend is how much money are we going to spend in 2021 for marketing and sales. Marketing, essentially, we say we are spending 1 million shillings, nothing more. And then now we go to the core channels. The core channels are important because this is where I had identified in the PowerPoint, basically saying these are the things that mean a lot to us. We want to boost our email list. We want our social media to go up. We want to put our blog. We want PPC ads, and we want affiliate marketing. Then now we go to the activities. What do we need to do, right? In this case, I want to hire a sports journalist who is basically okay, you know, you need a budget. You cannot be indisciplined in business. Yeah? If you're indisciplined, people will discipline you the rough way. So you have to basically do that. So for instance, for us, it's important to have a journalist who understands sports news. It can't just be anyone who is there writing and saying. So we needed to hire a journalist to write the stories. So a journalist who's already being paid to write about running news. And so they tell us, okay, since you're doing your newsletter weekly, I'll charge you 3,000 bob for each newsletter. So I write the quantity is 52 because there are 52 weeks, right? And then the total cost I expect to spend on that during the year is 156,000. Then I want to hire a photographer, because once you start learning that people have copyright, you can't just use any image. You also want to make sure that you have someone there. So for this photographer, I know that I need to hire them quarterly. So I'll pay 30,000 4 times in a year. And in that quarterly, I make sure that I have captured everything I need to capture, right? Like if it's people running, people doing all kinds of things, you know, and sometimes I even ask the sport journalists to take their own photos. I know that it will cost me 120,000 for photography. Staff time, I don't charge it because it's included in the salary of the person who will be doing this, but I put it here so that you know that you should also charge for your time. Don't do work for free, because then you'll say, oh, my business is making a profit, yet it can't pay you. It means your business is not making a profit, you're just not costing yourself in the budget. Then we go to social media. I want to make sure that our social media is also the second important thing we want to do. So Plan is a software that allows us to manage our social media posts. It charges us 6,000. These are just indicative figures. Depends on the plan. So there's a free bundle. There's a bundle for 1 person, 2 people. But since we are managing, we want to be ahead of the game, you go for a specific subscription. It's a monthly subscription. And so, so here I wrote it. It's a monthly subscription, and therefore it will cost me 72,000. Hootsuite is basically allows you to manage your Instagram, social media, like Facebook, everything at one go. It's also a rough estimate. It's costing about the same amount of money, 6,000 a month. And this again, it depends on your business, but for us, it's important to have a way to manage all these things. And then staff time is included in salary, big social media campaigns, and I'll talk about this just a few. So we know that we want to have a big splash where we are doing something major. We do 3 in a year because they're usually a campaign is very expensive. So we say, okay, we do 3 campaigns, each costing 150,000. That will cost about 450,000. For the blog, we want to hire a copywriter or editor. You don't have to do this at the beginning. I'm just giving an example of what we do. And the reason why we do it is because of search engine optimization, which I mentioned briefly, but you want your website to be ranking at the top. And we also pay digital ads. PPC ads and affiliate marketing are a percentage of sales, they're variable costs. So I know it depends on how much money we make. We only spend if we make money. And so for the whole year, my budget is 960,000. I don't have to spend $1 million, but I know that I am within the budget. So if anybody wants to do something outside this, it's not to say that we've locked it. We always keep it open, but you want to be in a position where everybody knows what they need to do. And for you to spend 960,000, let's say in our case, we would expect maybe 3 million in sales. And so anytime you are doing all of these things, let's say you hired a sports journalist, by the end of the first month, you're thinking, hey, this newsletter is not converting, people are not buying. Then it means you go back to your team and say, what do we do better? If the photographer is taking photos that are not necessarily generating interest on social media, how do we work with them to do better? So this basically is to just show you how the budget is important and it can guide you to know whether or not you're being successful. Now, so going back to, oh, sorry, this was the template. So I'll show you some examples. Please let me know, I've just switched to the PowerPoint. Let me know if you can see the PowerPoint presentation. Can you see the PowerPoint or are you still seeing the Excel? Okay, oh, okay, cool. So let me fix that right now. Okay, I believe you should be seeing the PowerPoint, correct? Awesome, thank you guys. So now this was now you see from this particular point, we moved from just talking about the marketing priorities to actually seeing how much those things will cost us as a business. And so when you talk about email list, social media campaign, the blog and the ads and the affiliate marketing, the budget essentially allows you to say, this is how much it will cost, and therefore I expect X amount of money, which is important. So for instance, now this is one of our big campaigns. We call it the Mount Kenya Fastest Known Time, which we abbreviate as FKT. So the concept was to, and again, as I said, the reason why campaigns cost a little bit more is because you're going the extra mile to do something special. It's not just your regular post. The concept was to beat a 25-year-old Mount Kenya fastest known time record held by an Italian, because we're like, wait, we are a Kenyan running brand operating in Kenya, but there's an Italian who's holding a record in Kenya. So we figured this would be something that would be nice to collaborate with other brands, and also would be a nice way to get news into the running world. So the idea was to work with other global running brands in order to be featured on their mailing list. Keep in mind, I said before that our mailing list was our first priority. So in as much as we were doing the FKT, we knew that if we went to other companies and said, hey, we want to do this FKT, are you guys interested? And they'll be like, yeah, of course we're interested. And I'm like, okay, so we are thinking, how about we cross-pollinate each other's mailing lists, tell your users about this competition, we tell ours, and then there'll be a giveaway together. What we did here is we were specifically targeting their mailing lists and saying, we want their customers to know that we exist. And so by doing a joint giveaway, it allowed us to be able to have them feature us on our mailing list. And it was very successful because our mailing list actually grew up by 20%. The platform was Instagram. The budget ended up being more expensive because of the whole thing just to get prepared. So we wanted to spend 150, we ended up spending 250. However, because we knew we could not afford, we had to look for sponsors and say, okay, guys, this is what we're thinking of. And so our target was, we knew we were going over budget, but we had a plan to cover the over expenditure. The timeline was December to January. And we were targeting these brands. It was us, a brand called Aspire that sells hydration. You can see the athlete wearing the water packs. The other one is called Koros. They sell GPS watches. And Ranjanji does the apparel for athletes. So it was accent because I knew, going back to the customer persona, my customer is outdoors. All these brands are outdoors. My customer likes the weekends. All my customers will appreciate the photo of an athlete over, on top of Mount Kenya. My customers appreciate sustainability. A lot of these brands are about sustainable. So we were not just going blindly to say, let's collaborate with these brands. We are going also for brands that we knew that their customers are the same as our customers. Our assumption was that mountain running is on the rise and Kenyans are underrepresented. We are usually very good on the track, but mountain running is becoming a new thing globally. There are no Kenyans, and we're like, okay, so if we do this, we might get the interest of those runners who we are targeting, but they may not necessarily see Kenyans in their races. Success metrics, we wanted a 20% increase in our mailing list. As I said before, our mailing list is important because this is where we make a lot of our sales. And so it ended up having a customer acquisition cost of about 200 per sale. So this customer acquisition cost, keep in mind, I'm selling my product at 10,000, 12,000. I have managed to use the budgets of other brands to push my brand and ended up spending a less lot money than I had planned for if I was just doing it myself. So the whole idea is to show you that you are using, you go back to how you meet your customers' needs, who you can collaborate it, and how you can do it cheaply. You don't necessarily have to have the money, but think of ways to collaborate with other brands. Thank you very much, Raphael. But that's the thing, basically trying to figure out what is something that ticks with your customers. The second campaign we did was called Enda and Sevaria collaboration. So Sevaria is a local brand, and we wanted to do a collaboration that highlights, you know, like something that goes with our shoes. So the shoe that we were launched is the one that the lady is wearing. We call them the Enda Pride shoes. So the concept was to launch a gender neutral capsule. You know, a capsule collection is just a fancy way of saying a small number of pieces to complement our running shoes and take advantage of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So we launched these shoes for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. The reason for that was, okay, I'll explain at the bottom, but we were targeting our newsletter and Facebook sponsored ads. We had a budget of 70,000 shillings. The timeline was 1st to 20th November, around the Black Friday times. We were targeting our own customers. Assumption is that people care about social justice and they're also anti-Black Friday, Cyber Monday consumerism. So if you look at, again, which is why it's important, when I was looking at my customers, they are mostly in the US and they're mostly in Europe. When it's Black Friday, everybody is targeting them with buy this, buy that, distance sale, distance that. So we differentiated ourselves by saying, how about we raise the prices and then we give the money raised to charity? And so while you think raising prices on Black Friday might be counterproductive, well, when we raised our prices, we actually sold these shoes out within 4 days, right? And we ended up getting the goal of what we wanted, because people are like, I'm tired of being told buy, buy, buy. And at the same time, they're like, I want to do something that is assisting the social justice movement. And so the success metric we wanted, because this was a small collection, we wanted 70% of the collection to be sold by the time of the deadline. And so this was important because when you're pushing all this, you know that if we are able to sell 70% of the collection, we will have recouped the money we've spent. And we were able to do that within a short number of days. And the customer acquisition cost was 700 shillings per sale. And so this, again, is to just show you are targeting, every campaign you're doing is targeting your customer. And also, since I told you before, our customer wants to support small businesses, we said, why don't we partner with a local designer who's smaller than us? And therefore, this is something that's endearing to our customers. The last campaign we did that I'd like to highlight was a carbon offsets campaign. To any other person who's not in Enda, this would look like a crazy campaign, but because we know, as I said before, our customer, who's like Erica in this case, cares about sustainability. I know that a carbon offset campaign is something that people would really appreciate. And people, I mean specifically my customers. So the concept is offset your carbon footprint and get a discount on your Lapatet running shoes. So carbon footprint is essentially how much energy are you expending, and can you give that money to an organization? Like once you calculate how much carbon you're adding, can we calculate, give you a discount, and basically you give that amount, you give that support to an organization that is offsetting carbon footprints. So we found an organization called Wildlife Works Carbon, and basically they offered to offset carbon footprints for our customers. We targeted Facebook sponsored ads. Our budget for this was very simple. It was just 10,000 shillings and mostly Facebook ads. We wanted to do it in the first month of January. We were targeting friends of people who like Enda Running on Facebook. Please note, this time we did not target our customers. We targeted friends of people who like our customers. This was a test. We were saying, well, if you're friends with this person and this person likes sustainability, you're more likely to be sustainable. So the purpose of this was to get into the next level of friends of our customers. And the assumption was that people who care about their carbon footprint or the environment are more likely to exercise consistently and buy ethically manufactured running shoes. And so that's the angle we targeted them. We wanted at least 20 people to use the offer to buy Lapatet running shoes in that campaign, and we actually ended up getting a lot of people doing that. And so the thing is, I wanted to emphasize is sometimes some of the things you do might seem a little bit crazy to people who don't understand it, but when you have a really good understanding of your customer, it becomes very easy to run those campaigns. And so I think I just wanted to kind of like close off, because I feel like this is important to understand, and also when we'll be following up on the office hours so that I can be able to follow up with you guys. I don't want to say 3 campaigns. I can say like 1 or 2. You don't have to have the pressure of coming up with 3, but please give me, now that you've kind of gone through the process of understanding your customer persona, what 3 campaigns can you come up with that are within your budget? So something that is not going to be too crazy for your business, that you can use to market your products or services to your customer persona. I basically underline that so that you think of your customer as a person. So don't say to someone, you have to say to Timothy or to Catherine, so what campaigns can you come up with within your budget that you think you could execute in your business? So I'll give us a minute for that. Usually the best ideas are the ones that just pop into your mind. So please feel free to share in the chat and let me know what campaigns you think might work for your business. They don't necessarily have to be online. You can just type it directly in the chat. Thanks, Esther, for that. Thanks, Esther. I was actually just making a note to ask you what an AED is. Raphael noted as well. Awesome, thanks for the link. Cool, so we can continue adding in case you have any other. I do like the idea of basically doing AED crowdsourcing campaign to track down AED during February, which is a hot month. That's actually a very, very, very good idea. especially if you're in that field. And it's also something that a lot of people are people would be interested in, because it's a human story. So that's actually a very good idea. So the thing is, therefore, how do you make sure that you tell the stories of the people who you find who have the ADs? Can you get them to tell their stories? Can you find people to attach to a campaign so that they can do that? Yeah, you can get more time. I can give you an extra minute. I'm just trying to save time so that I can have time to answer questions at the end. So no pressure. You don't have to have the specific answer now, but it's just to jog your mind. As I said, we'll still have office hours, and so there'll still be time to discuss this in case you're not ready. But this is just more of showing you what it could be. But I can give you 1 more minute. Okay, cool. So yeah, I agree with that as well. Fill this out in the next couple of days, and then we can have a deep dive during the office hours. But again, just take time to think of what you can do. Yeah, so pretty much that is the end of this presentation, and I wanted to leave some time at the end for questions. Alex basically says, being a B Corp, would you say it has enhanced Enda's visibility? Do you feel it's something more for established organizations, or would you advise it for early stage businesses as well? Again, going back to customer persona. So for us, being a B Corp was important for our business from the beginning. So it wasn't also just about the customer, it is what we wanted for the business. And yes, it has enhanced our visibility a lot, because when people, especially in the markets that we are in, the B Corp movement is a trusted movement. We actually went through a 6-month audit. So it's not just something that they give you, you have to be audited. And so it helps us when people are looking for sustainable brands, and they definitely go to B Corps, and our name is on that list. It is not something for established organizations. I cannot remember the qualifications. I think your business has to be in operation for a year. So you don't have to be an established business. Yeah, so I would actually advise it for early stage businesses as well. 2 reasons. One, not only becoming a B Corp, but the audit process gives you a report. And that report essentially allows you to see a lot of areas you could improve in your business. So I call it like a quote unquote free consultation for a service that would be very difficult to afford otherwise. A lot of businesses do it for that report. You want to be able to be audited and to be told, okay, you need to fix X, Y, Z, and that really helps. So yeah, I would say it has enhanced, but again, it is based on the customers that we are going for. I had answered some questions in the chat. If you do have any questions, just feel free to type them, and then I will address. There was someone who asked about having a website. I always say have your website. At the very least, have your website, your blog, because you are just building a website is like a savings account. You basically are saving, you're giving Google little bits of you that together when someone is searching, they find you. And the reason why I emphasize for small businesses in Kenya, we are not yet at a level where businesses are online. And so if someone is looking for an online service, they're more likely to find you because it's not crowded yet compared to other markets. So I would say have the review, have your website up as fast as you can. There is some sites like Wix.com, Wix and Squarespace. Wix is W-I-X, Squarespace is just a square and space. So you can basically, you don't have to be a pro at designing a website. There are places where you can just go and have like a really quick website to just have presence. So in as much as you have social media, have presence as well. Yeah, thank you. So Wix and Squarespace. So yeah, you can basically set up a website. You don't have to pay someone to do it. My Wix website, that's my own personal website, is Wix, and it's copy and paste. Like, you don't have to go and learn how to code. And so do use these free platforms to create a platform. I think also WordPress can allow you to have some free templates, but just, yeah, thanks, Faith. Weebly.com, all those things, just go and set a presence. Like, yeah, set your presence, and if possible, have your logo there or just a one page about what you do. And I would encourage you to add a blog, because the blog will help you, especially over time, and also with social media. It's just that I can't go deep into it, but those things are like gold in future, because you're just building your digital asset. Great, thank you. Alex had asked, although I had also answered, this is just for the benefit of the people who missed out on the chat. How did you do it for logo improvement by the time you pitched at Lions Den, and now the logo improved, right? Yes, the logo improved, but we changed it for our own purposes. So I would say, as I said before, the most important thing is not even to change it, it's just to have the logo, have the identifier. Let people say, like for instance, at the bottom of this screenshot, you can see that you have the UK Kenya Tech Hub, you have ISBI, you have the Kijiji, you have Circle Innovation. Have your own website. Have something that when people look, they can say, ah, that's Alex's business, or that's Catherine's business, or that's Timothy's business. That's like a very important thing. And changing it was more because, as I said, learning your customer persona is a growth progress. As I said before, our customer age group is from 27 to 45. If you're a 27-year-old female, by 30, you might have children. So what you used to do before 3 years ago is not what you're doing now. So you can't also be comfortable. Your customer persona is not a fixed thing that you say, okay, now I've done my customer persona, I'm set. No, it's you move with your clients as they move through life, you know, and so I would say that's also super important. Is there any other question or someone else who feels I have not addressed their concerns? Our email setup, we are using a software called Klaviyo. However, I would say do not use, Klaviyo is a little bit pricey. We started with MailChimp. The reason why we moved to Klaviyo was now because as we got better at customer persona, we are able to classify our customers in different segments and therefore give them different information. So Klaviyo was a little bit of we did MailChimp for a couple of years. Thank you. We did Klaviyo for a couple, we did MailChimp. MailChimp is actually, I would advise, especially if you're starting a business, start with that. Klaviyo is just a little bit more elevated because our email list has grown larger and larger over time. And we want to have a way of answering our customer queries in a way that suits them. So for instance, Klaviyo will allow us to say, when someone is giving us feedback of, did you enjoy the customer service? And they say no, Klaviyo will send them an automated response. So the beauty of all these things is that it allows you to not answer everything personally. You can say, okay, if someone has given a good review, we say, oh, automatically it says, oh, thank you so much. That's been amazing. We hope you enjoy the product. If they say we didn't enjoy the product, it's an automated email of like, oh no, we're really sorry about that. What happened and stuff like that. So that also helps you save time. But I would say if you're starting, start with MailChimp. And then as your mailing list grow, we only moved to Klaviyo because now we got into huge numbers and we needed a better way of managing them. Alex, oh yes, I do remember. Yeah, yeah, no wonder I was like, I think I know this name. Thank you very much. It's not an easy thing running a business, but I just want to make sure that you have the tools that are able to help you, because at some point when you're in entrepreneurship, you are so on survival mode, you forget about branding, you forget about marketing, you forget about things which, if you are not on survival mode, would really help your business to grow. And I'm happy to help with that. Victor, what would you recommend as a way of marketing a B2B product? Mine is a billing platform that automates billing. It's targeting Kenyan SMEs that bill their customers regularly and receive payments via M-Pesa. It's offered by a software and service model. Okay, so one thing I'll tell you, Victor, is you have to go knock on the SME doors, right? And the good thing is you can do that virtually. If I were you, I would ask myself, where are SMEs either starting or growing, or, you know, what are these spaces? So I would look for business accelerators, Growth Africa, you have Shona, some of them, you even have the Kijiji itself. Like, so because these are places where they are dealing with multiple SMEs, you have a better chance of pitching there because you are more likely to pitch to a wider audience of SMEs. And then now you're able to present to them. You want an introduction, and then you have to be very aggressive in following up. So go to places where the SMEs would kind of collect. And then another way, again, I also say still social media. Like one of our payroll service we got through social media. It's just they kept on posting about payroll, KRA, taxes, and stuff like that. So don't also do that. But ultimately, I would say you want to be knocking on SMEs' doors every day. Give your team targets. You know that you want to maybe have 20 SMEs, give them a target of 100 SMEs, because then you can have a failure rate of about 80%, and then you still have your 20% SMEs. So just make sure that you are knocking on the doors that, that you want. And that you are, sometimes it's not an easy shortcut, I would say, you know, like for us, for runners, we have gone to all the people who sell running shoes and like, do you want to sell our running shoes? And we've gotten a lot of no's. But even in that process, we've learned, okay, this is what people prefer. You need to have X number of running shoes, not just one product and stuff like that. So marketing B2B, find the places. I would talk to banks, I would talk to accelerators. And also once they introduce you to an SME, ask those SME, do you know other two SMEs I can talk to, or other friends of yours that I can talk to? Sometimes that is it's the grind. It's what you need to do to get your customers. So all the best with that. Timothy, any ideas on how to target startups online? What strategies would one use? I would even go there further to ask you what kind of startups, because this is what the customer persona exercise is about. You might be an architectural startup is very different from a manufacturing startup, is very different from a tech startup. And so you have to be very clear on which kind of startups are you looking for? Are you looking for regional ones, local ones? Because even when you get to Facebook ads, especially because you're doing online, so you might want to do Google ads or Facebook ads, they will still ask you all these questions. Where is the demographic? Where are they, like, who are you targeting? Are you targeting businesses run by women? Are you targeting businesses run by men? And stuff like that. So I would say kind of do some work I would ask, like, what type of startups are you targeting? I'm assuming you know, maybe the question wasn't super specific, but I would say if I'm targeting startups online, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like the best. In fact, I would say it's because unlike Facebook, where it is very entertaining, Facebook and Instagram have a lot of entertainment. LinkedIn is very, oh, look at me and my achievements kind of thing. And so if you're having something different, you're more likely to have good engagement. So I would say for you specifically, look at LinkedIn, start writing thought articles, thought leadership articles in terms of what services you're ordering, startups, what startups can do. I think you might have a really good chance with LinkedIn as well, but also I'd still go to the same thing, talk to business accelerators, let them introduce you to their SMEs, and then see if you can also ask those SMEs for references. Cool, I think I've answered that. Anybody else with a question? Okay, going once. Okay, great. So I think at this moment, I shall hand back over to Freya to close.
There is one more question in the chat. Maybe we can tackle that one and then we can wrap up.
Great, I had missed that one. Oh yeah, great. How do you do multi-geography social media marketing? Same handle, different handle, same content, different content? That's such a good question, Esther. It's literally what we were discussing in my team this week. And so it depends on how your business grows. The thing about splitting your social media handles is that you are splitting your audience. Ultimately, you want your audience in one location and you want them to do one thing to buy your product. So we found that when you split your social media marketing, it becomes problematic because people are going to different sites. You're not optimizing each site. You're not able to get verification because you're not having enough people liking the thing. So I would say if your business is small, start with one handle, you know. And then so for us now, we have graduated to a point where, and we had this problem for a long time. Sometimes we were Enda Running, sometimes we were Enda Sportswear, sometimes, you know, and we're like, okay, we need to agree what name of the business it is. And so we've decided that we shall just be Enda Sportswear. If we grow to Europe, for example, we shall be Enda Sportswear Europe or Enda Sportswear, you know, but it takes time to get there. For now, especially for businesses that are still starting or in the growth phase, I would highly, highly advocate for a single handle. The issue is, are you communicating to your customer persona? So I'll say a small trick we do, which we are trying to do because we're also getting help with it, is that you should be able to talk to your customer persona in the different social media posting you're doing. So for example, if I give we have multi-geography customers. So we make sure one day we're talking to Kenyans. The next day we are talking to white female runners. The next day we are talking to African-American female runners. The next day we're talking to African-American male runners. It's still all about running shoes, but the messaging, the product is the same, but the messaging is targeting different people. So that's one way you could do for multi-geography media. We haven't cracked it yet. So for us, it's also a work in progress. But I do think as you are starting out, you want one place where everybody comes to. And then once you grow to like 300K or something, like when you're big enough, then you can afford to split your social media marketing. Great. I hope I answered your question.